Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to learn how you could go from an idea to an app. So a lot of people usually have this problem where they actually know how to make an application, but if they actually have an idea in their mind, or the next big idea as you could call it, they actually don't know how to go ahead and start building an application from scratch. So this lecture actually deals with the same problem, and we are going to go through a procedure which is going to help you understand how to go ahead and start building your application from scratch. So let's go ahead and learn the process. So the first thing which you need to do is that you need to define actors in your application. So the actors in your application are nothing but the people who will be using your application. So there could be actually one actors, two actors, or multiple actors in your application. So in order to understand this example in a much more better way, let's take an example of a food ordering application. So in case of a food ordering application, you basically could classify actors into two types. One is going to be your consumer, who is going to be able to place orders via your application. The next one is going to be the restaurant owner, who is going to actually fulfill the order by providing food to your consumer. And your application essentially here is nothing but the middleman which connects the consumer with the restaurant owners or restaurants, so that you could actually go ahead and order food from there. Now once you have defined the actors, the next task which you need to do is that you need to go ahead and you need to define the actions or the things which these actors could do with your application. So if you consider your application and if you consider a normal consumer, these are the following things which he would be able to do with your application. So he will be able to view the menu, he would be able to view the items on the menu, he would be able to place an order, cancel order, or view the order status. So these are all the things which he could do with the app. Now talking about the other actor, which is going to be your restaurant owner, he actually will be able to add items to the menu, he will be able to view the existing orders, and also he could fulfill the current orders. Now depending upon your customer's requirement, you could go ahead and add these features or remove certain features depending upon your customer's need, but right now we have considered a limited set of functions for understanding. Now once this thing is done, what you need to do is that you need to pick up key items from the above actions. So we have already defined the actions which the actors could perform with your application. Now you need to take up some key items or key points from these above actions. So here we understand that the key items in this case are menu item, then we have the order item, and then we have the customers. So once we have these three key items, this means that we need to go ahead and store the information related to these particular things, because these things are actually crucial things to our application and for the entire flow. So once you have defined that, let's go ahead and go into much more depth of these three items. So if you consider menu item, the menu item is going to have certain kind of properties. So the menu item is nothing but the food item which appears on your menu. So you need to define attributes for that thing. So each food item is going to have a name. So it might be pizza. Then it's also going to need to have a description. So let's say the description is pizza with extra cheese. And then you also obviously need to have a price, and then you do need to have an image. Now let's go ahead and talk about the next thing, which is nothing but order. So when you talk about order, the most important thing in order is going to be the order ID, which is essential to uniquely define individual order. Then you also need to have the order placed by attribute, which states that the order is placed by a particular customer. Then after that, you also need to have the ordered item, which is in this case, let's consider pizza. And final one is the customer. So the customer needs to have the user ID, and also he need to have certain orders. So once you have these attributes and their values, you now know what all things you need to save in your application and what all things need to be saved in the database. So once this thing is done, the next thing which you need to do is that you need to define the flow of your application. And flow is nothing but it's actually a thing which states how your application is going to be used in a real life scenario. So your application is going to have various states. So depending upon the type of application, your application is going to have multiple states. So a flow is nothing but flow is actually the various events which are going to appear in your application, and the user is going to be guided from one event to other event. So a flow is nothing but it's how your application is actually going to be used in a real life scenario. So let's go ahead and understand flow in a much more better way. So here we have your consumer, which is the customer, and here we have the restaurant owner, and let's define the key things which these guys are going to do with your application. So first of all, the owner is going to add items to the menu, because obviously unless and until you add items to the menu, the customer won't be able to see them. Then the customer is going to view the menu, he's going to view the menu item, and he's going to order a certain item from your menu. Then again, the owner is actually going to receive your order, and then he is going to fulfill your order. So this is the simple flow for the application which we are discussing. So depending upon this flow, so once you have this flow, what you could do is that you could start implementing each and every feature in this particular flow. So for example, as you could see, the first flow item is nothing but adding items to the menu. So you could pick that particular thing and you could start building your application. So let's go ahead and learn how to use that particular flow item to design the application. So let's consider adding features to your app. So we will consider adding items to menu. Then here we have it. The owner is going to be the one who is going to do that. So what we need to do here is that we need to first define the key things which we need to add to the database, which correlates with adding items to the menu. So we obviously need to add the item name, the item description, the item price, and the item image. So what we do here is that in our application, we are going to add an edit text for entering the name, for entering the description, the price, and an image. And after that, we are going to have a button at the bottom which says done. And after that, what we are going to do is that we are going to take the entire data and store it into some backend database. So as you have implemented this feature, what you could do is that you could go back and you could implement the rest of the features as well. So once you have completed the first feature, you could then jump on to the next feature, which is basically how the customer is going to be able to view the menu. So once that feature is completed, you could move ahead, complete the third feature, so on and so forth. So that's it for this lecture, and I hope you guys were able to understand how you could go from your idea to building a complete Android application. So if you have any doubts or difficulties, and if you want my help, then feel free to ask questions in the Q&A section, and I will be there to help you out. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.